So let's talk about Blonde. This is basically Netflix's very first NC-17 movie. Now, as such, it's a movie that Netflix knew, the filmmakers knew it was gonna be controversial. It was probably gonna draw the ire of a lot of viewers who didn't agree with what the movie was trying to say about its subject matter, about, Marilyn Monroe, who's the focus of the film. And that's basically what I think ended up happening with our panel here because Andrew and Roland, you guys both watched this movie, and both of you came away with very, very different opinions on it. One of you liking it, and the other one not so much. So, yeah, Blonde,
Yeah.
and Netflix's first NC-17 film, Ana de Armas in the titular role of Marilyn Monroe. So let's start with you, Andrew. What did you think about the film?
I liked it. um, I
Care to elaborate?
okay, sure. You know, I didn't know the director at all. I was blown away with his work. I think the way he chose to tell the story was great. The visually it was so interesting, and he didn't overplay the black and white gimmick. And it's neat because he jumps from black and white to color, presenting different stories really in the color scenes and in the black and white scenes. He recreates iconic photos of her and like moments from her life. He gives them context, and Ana de Armas's performance was really, really good. I bought it. Um, I spoke to a friend who said like it was really one note and she wasn't really like that. And I have to admit, I really don't know much about Marilyn Monroe uh, outside of this movie. I was not like a huge Marilyn fan. I'd seen her in Some Like It Hot, um, but more than anything, I just found this to be a supremely artistic movie that was so shocking in some moments, especially because, like I said, I knew nothing about her. Um, I was just like, my gosh, it was an assault on my senses, um, and sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. But like, it was pretty raw, I gotta say. So yeah, I think it's a feat of filmmaking that I can appreciate. So thumbs up.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
assault is a great way of putting it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
Roland, what
let's
did you
let's see
what
how
did you
this
think of it?
goes.
So I don't think the movie is all bad. I want to make that very clear. There are some phenomenal moments in this film and aspects that are just crazy. For example, I thought the acting was fantastic. And with the costume and the hair and makeup and just the performance, I genuinely there was some scenes and we were actually looking at some stills and just looking at some stuff before we started taping where we genuinely thought that was Marilyn Monroe, but it's actually from the movie. You know, that you're watching and you think it's archival footage. No, they filmed that. That's how well they replicated that.
Yeah,
And the cinematography is just gorgeous and beautiful,
beautiful,
and it's got
beautiful.
these nice flares, and it goes between black and white, just in color, just like Andrew's saying, not in your conventional way. Um, there is very these raw and intimate moments. Um, but I have to say this movie is so misleading. And Andrew Dominic, the director, is known for making fictional biography movies.
Oh, really?
He made a movie called Chopper, which has Erica Bana in it, about
Mm-hmm.
this famous Australian criminal. And the first thing it says is this biography is not accurate.
Huh.
Paraphrasing, that's not what it like.
Yeah.
It's around those lines. It's a fictional interpretation, and that's what Blonde is. That's what the book was based off of. Blonde, that came out in 2000. It was a fictional biography based off of rumors and this and stuff that, and
Interesting.
basically putting in pieces of what might have happened, but also um, just kind of rewriting the story in general, so you get these elements and this raw feeling and these themes that were also in Marilyn Monroe, Norma Jean Baker's life.
Yeah.
So this feeling of being used for her body and the just kind of male dominated world and just
Well,
various
so
things.
I gotta ask then, like, given that, like, do you feel like as a story, take the accuracy out of it for a
Yeah,
moment, because you know it happens to be based on a novelized version of a, a character at the end of the day.
yeah.
Um, is the movie compelling from that standpoint? Is it a good story? Say she wasn't a real person. Is it a good movie?
I think there are some moments that the whole movie, like you said, is it's to attack your senses, to just really shake you to your core. And I think they almost overdo it, especially in that first 15 minutes, which is just this dark feeling. But um, just taking it, not even thinking about how these people are all real people.
Yeah.
I think it does tell a great story of probably something that happened a lot, in that time and period. And I think it is a good story. It hurts because they could have done this story and have completely different characters. They didn't have to use these names.
Well, I mean, I don't know. See, now I'd have to go back and ask, like, what was fake and what didn't actually happen, because some of the details of this movie are the most shocking parts of it, and it's like, if that was invented, that is troubling, you know.
The mother, Norma Jean Baker's mother was, she had some undiagnosed things. That is accurate. And she didn't know her father.
Yeah.
The mother didn't obsess about the missing father, especially not like how it's shown in the movie. Um, she never burns the house down. From what I've seen and researched, I watched a documentary about her like half a year ago. I don't believe she ever tried to drown Marilyn. But I will say, when Norma Jean did go to the orphanage, because that is a thing that happened because her mother was institutionalized, she did scream, I'm not an orphan, though. I'm not an orphan, which led throughout her life.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you know about the pregnancies? If those
the
details were real?
pregnancies, that's another troubling thing. Uh, so that never happened.
None of that happened?
Whenever she's with Arthur Miller,
That didn't
uh,
happen?
she did have two miscarriages.
But that's not how it happened.
I don't believe so.
Because that's
She
that's
had a she
probably
had a
that's probably the most upsetting scene in the movie.
yeah. It's she had some sort of she had something that like that made her have like problems having kids.
Okay.
From what I've researched is that it happened twice. It was around the time with Arthur Miller. She did love kids. That's a famous thing. The last few years of her life, she was with a therapist and became really close with the therapist and their family, and just loved kids and loved people in general. But that's not necessarily a thing that, I don't know, which is another argument. A lot of people are having trouble with these scenes because they are very disturbing and horrifying. And Mags, one of our Oh So Curious peeps, she even said that this movie is a fictionalized horror movie based off of, oh gosh, how'd she word it? She worded it really well in the chat. But gosh, how did she word it?
Look it up.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah,
look
I
it
got
up.
it. I got it.
You got it?
Oh, don't want to put that on screen. Hold
Put the whole thing on there. Wow.
on.
So I
Yeah,
mean,
no, it's
as you what did she say?
yeah. So she said it's not a film about her. The argument is it's a horror film based on Marilyn and not a biopic made as a horror. So it's a vision of her life and her demons based on truth or reality. So remove the facts about Marilyn from the equation completely when reviewing it, and just look at it more as if you were watching The Nightmare on Elm Street rather than My Week with Marilyn. So that's how Mags described it.
You know what? I think that's fair too. I mean, the thing is, even in the themes of this movie, I was like, this is actually a movie with some positive moral messages and some just like positive messaging. Period. It's like to every young girl watching this, here's the price of fame. You know,
Mm.
be careful because this is what's out there for you. And that goes with the abuse, which happens to men and women, doesn't matter what part of entertainment you're in. Like, there are people who will try to overpower you and force you to do all kinds of stuff no matter what you're in. Um, that's part of it, but also having to sell your soul and to put something up on screen that has your face but isn't you is that's another thing that our culture is kind of obsessed with, creating this perfect image on, whether it be Instagram, but like we're all these girls out there trying to basically be Marilyn Monroe but to their followers. I thought that was nice. I think it was refreshing to see a character who really is loving as much as she's loving to everybody she encounters and desperately wants children. This is the product of absent parenting, bad parenting, and we see this woman with a desire to be a mother. It's just like totally different than say She-Hulk, you know?
Yeah, definitely different vibes. I can't put my finger on it, but yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Oh no. The other thing that's very different from She-Hulk is the Rotten Tomatoes rating. So we just talked about earlier in the show, She-Hulk is
Wow.
now certified fresh. This movie's got 227 reviews from critics, and it's sitting at a 44%. Far
Why?
away
What
from
are what are people saying?
fresh.
Can we scroll down and see
Let's
what's
see. By the way, the
Andrew,
audience
I
rating is
think
not
you
that
do
high
have a
either.
really good point of if you take away the like comparing like actually using Marilyn Monroe and you just had it as a story, I think it would have gotten a much better reception because there are so many fantastic things about it.
Yeah.
Just like books and like stories and just like things that probably happened, but you don't really have a handle on it. But this
Yeah.
is a person that turned into this myth and legend that people still connect with to this day, like you're saying with influencers. So it almost hurts to see like how people are seeing an injustice to her as a
Well,
person.
I mean, honestly, like for me, this drew immediate comparisons to Elvis, um, and like I think if we know what's his name, Andrew Dominic,
Yeah,
if we know that he does fictionalized versions of people's lives, we should be okay with that. I think maybe the marketing should indicate like this is a story that imagines Marilyn Monroe's,
it's special.
life.
Yes, definitely.
They should like that's on the part of the marketing.
Yeah,
But with Elvis, like that was something that's like this is the biopic. This is the official story of Elvis, and
yeah.
I didn't buy that for a second. I just didn't feel like I was watching Elvis. So maybe as a society we have to decide what is a biopic. And again, I have to always because I'm just really excited for it. I'm very excited to see Weird Al's biopic
Oh my
because
gosh, yes, I
because
completely
he's
agree.
going to put biopics on trial, and
It's gonna be
it's
the
the
new Dewey Cox for
which
I
is
think.
my favorite movie
Yeah,
of all
we've
time.
yeah.
Um, we what we do, we create these icons out of people, and we tell the story of they were abused, then they had a struggle with drugs, and now they're God. And that's every biopic from Walk the Line or Ray, Rocket Man, Bohemian Rhapsody. It's the exact same story, just changing out the music. Same with Walk Hard, but that was the point it was making. I
Yeah.
think, we need to take a step back and ask ourselves, what does it mean to live a life? What do these people do that made them successful? And how are we going to remember this person? Not change the story to fit the context of modern audiences or modern tastemakers, because these are things that we're going to want to watch again so that we can live the story of that person's life outside of their music or their movies or, whatever they made.
Well, let me ask you guys something. So, a big thing about this movie, like it's a risky film and risky endeavor because it's an NC-17 film, which basically kills any theatrical potential. So just trying to get this thing made, I think, was always going to be a challenge, which is
I
probably why it took this long. Because a company like Netflix can take that risk because they don't care so much about the theatrical run. And a lot of
Yeah.
people are saying things like, I mean, the critics consensus says Ana de Armas's luminous performance makes it difficult to look away, but Blonde can be hard to watch as it teeters between commenting on exploitation and contributing to it. So they lean into the rating. Now, I want to ask you guys, do you think for you, knowing what we know about the film now and the conversation we have had, was that NC-17 rating justified? Was it earned? And also, should this movie have taken that visceral of an approach to the story, fictionalized or otherwise?
First of all, the visceral approach is one of my favorite things about it. It was unapologetic in that, and like I think more artists should take risks like that. I love that. I think the NC-17 rating, even though there's plenty of shocking moments in this, I think that's just Netflix, marketing. Hey, we have the first ever NC-17 movie because it's the first. And when something's the first, for some reason, we think that that matters.
Yeah. It definitely earned its rating. I will say that much. There's definitely some scenes where like she didn't have to be naked. Like she could have clearly just been like pajamas and stuff like that.
Yeah,
But I,
they
I
didn't
definitely,
sexualize her in those scenes, though, which was also interesting. They weren't like shooting her like this object. They were just sort of showing this like
yeah.
naked body. It wasn't, she wasn't posing or like trying
I
to
think that's what's so
seduce.
jarring about it is that, yeah,
Is that you're
exactly.
looking at it, it's like it's not sexy. What's wrong? Why isn't it sexy?
Like, all right, so spoiler. So when her well, technically her second husband, but her first husband in the film, um, is like angry about getting blackmailed about these photos. He goes upstairs and she calls him daddy like 5 times, and then he just beats the life out of her. But she's
Yeah.
not wearing. She's pretty much naked, so it's like this very jarring kind of like, I guess, normalizing your body maybe.
Well, you know what I thought? I mean, I thought there was also some drama in that because she was at that point really just sort of living for him. She gave herself over. It was almost that was actually the closest I'd seen to like "Don't Worry, Darling." It was like she really was just like, "Hey, you're home. Guess what I have ready for you." It was this earnest, like I said, loving and innocent gesture that was being met with so much anger and hostility, and his rage cuts through that. I don't think it was, gratuitous. I think
Yeah.
there was a
Also,
reason for it.
yeah, fun fact, that he did after the whole like her like wearing the white dress and the air goes up.
Yeah.
There was like an altercation that was a deal, but one of the reasons that they got divorced was his physical abuse, obviously, but also that he was telling her that she should settle down and have a kid and stuff like that, but she really wanted to continue acting in her career.
Hmm.
Now, it is true that she like struggled with the stardom and stuff like that because she really wanted to act. That's why she goes to that New York circle, because she really cared about the integrity of acting.
Yeah.
But I think it's,
There
yeah,
there was also a great scene where she does that audition, um, and you get these two guys talking to the director, and one being like, "Oh, she was brilliant. She really dug deep into something that and like he's trying to talk about what a brilliant actress she is." And then you have
yeah,
this other guy who goes, "Oh, she's just a crazy woman digging into her own insanity and just putting it on display. That's not acting. That's psychosis." Which I
yeah,
thought was a wonderful evisceration of a lot of modern acting, by the way. Just putting that out there. Ultimately, the director goes, "Man, look at her ass," and she gets the job. So, you know, the film comments on itself a lot in a lot of really interesting ways, especially when there's that shot we have of the woman dressing Marilyn, and they recreate that in the movie as well. And she's saying, I don't really enjoy it. And this woman dressing her is like, oh, don't think for a second that every woman in the world wouldn't trade places with you. Of course you love it. You know,
Yeah.
there was a good amount of self-awareness in this, and it wasn't winking so much as addressing arguments that would inevitably be made.
Okay,
agree.
well, so all that said, and I guess we can wrap up with this. Would you or would you not recommend this movie to someone else who's either got a passing interest in it, or, is a fan of biopics, or in general is just looking for a movie to watch? Is this a film that you would recommend? And Roland, I'll start with you on this one. Would you recommend this to somebody?
I think that you should really before you click on this movie, you should definitely really think if you're in that mind space, if you're really open to to have something hit you to your core and expect something raw and get to themes and ideas that are very deep and might hit you in different ways to each person, then I think you should go in also knowing that this is a fictional biopic.
Yeah.
But just be careful. I think that's the only thing I want to say at the end of
I
that.
think that's fair. I think that's fair. You know, I would say I would recommend this to people who are interested in film because it is a great film. It's not a movie. It's not even really a biopic, but if you want to take in some aesthetics and some inventive cinematography, and just see what's possible with film, this is a really imaginative and daring movie. I'll say that.
Yes.
Okay.
It's very risky for, yeah.
It was
There
Oh,
goes my
damn,
camera again.
come on. He can bear it.
it was
I'll fix
brutal. It was artistic, and it was daring.
I think the word that I used was dour, but
You said dour.
I said
Yeah.
dour.
Yeah. The joke at the beginning of the
BAD.
show, BAD. I thought it was good, though. Anyway, tell us what you think. Watch it or don't, but if you do, watch it with some caution and know that it's not all real. Take in the story and the acting and the aesthetics because it's worth it for that. And then tell us what you think in the comments because we're just a couple of guys talking about it. You can join that conversation, and maybe you'll even be on the show next week as the comment of the week. We don't know. We can't predict the future, but we will be talking about other stuff next week.